We good to go?
Yep. Will gaming mics work?
Gaming?
Yeah, gaming mics.
Yeah, the ones with the we've looked at those. We're looking at I sent you the ones that have the actual studio.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have a real studio.
I have a Turtle Beach. Fucking,
Yeah.
headset.
Welcome to the Miller Martial Arts Podcast, episode 11. 11 with confidence. Brought to you by Miller Martial Arts, the online academy. Our students that have gotten that this week are super fucking lucky. With me, we have Bubby Mitchell and John Thomson. Let's get into it. All right. Let's talk about that Rona. Let's talk about lessons learned from the Coronication and I guess what I would call the essentialism of jiu-jitsu and martial arts in our community.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, don't all go at once.
Okay. Yeah, I think
kick it off.
I think within the stuff, you guys are well aware we had things like social distancing protocols and not here, definitely not here. But all across the country, you had the social distancing, you got these masks and all this stuff, and I'm sure that those were there for a reason. But with all the time off and the people that had to take off due to whether they were high risk or they lived with someone that was high risk, I got a lot of messages. I got texts. I got phone calls from many of our students that they were getting antsy for us to reopen, and not just because they missed the art of jiu-jitsu, which you guys know is super addicting once you get on that, but for their mental health. Like this place and your place and just jiu-jitsu academies, all across the country, they get this is like a sanctuary for them, and this is the place that they can go and they can let their problems go. And as you guys know, that this isn't like a martial art that you guys know those guys that would say, I don't know, man, I couldn't train. I just get mad. And people get hurt, those guys, we laugh, and those guys are jokes, they never end up signing up anyways. But the reason is because you can't do this art like that. You have to have a free mind. You have to be like, because when you bring that shit with you from the outside world, you don't get the results that you want. You have a bad class. You get injured. You are unable to drill or perform the technique well. So when people get into this, they're able to leave that stuff at the door, and they come in, and this is their place of like Zen, And I think a lot of people, when they were out for that first 2 months that we were closed, or some of those people that are still out, again, because either one, they're high risk, or two, they live with someone who's high risk, they're not able to get that Zen state, So for just mental health, I think, jiu-jitsu and martial arts and self-defense, it's, I guess we would be considered non-essential personnel, but I think that that's wrong for somebody to label somebody or their business as being essential or non-essential. And I think that you guys can attest to the physical and the mental side of things, and how I would say that jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general could not be more essential.
Right, I agree. I mean, essential is an arbitrary term. I mean, to a person who's, got a toothache, and the dentist offices are reduced staff. There's only maybe one hygienist or one person going, working in that office, or, and that can go to any, industry. For that one person who needs to be seen, they're suffering.
Yeah.
I mean, so that all of a sudden makes everyone else who may have been laid off essential. And and it's not just jiu-jitsu studios or dojos or academies. It's yoga.
Right.
I mean, it's the regular gym.
Right.
It's
a coping mechanism for some,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
essential to them, like a
Yeah.
bar is to drinkers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the service and leisure activities
Sure.
industries that got decimated by this, and in the other states that's still going on. When you look at what jiu-jitsu provides, it's a service. It's a service to people. All the attributes to that service that you mentioned are obvious, for us who's in the game.
Right.
But to people who are regulating things,
Yeah, they're irrelevant.
yeah,
They don't care.
But for the people that rely on the things that we do, they do, what other businesses, other industries do, like this is pretty devastating.
Because as far as the people who make the policy are concerned, we're a small business.
Right.
We don't get any asterisk next to it. We don't get like a business type or how we affect people and help people. We're just a small business.
Right.
And that's the end of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, like we noticed, like everything you guys have mentioned before, we know it inside the industry. I've tried to explain that. We explain it to people when you have someone that's new that comes in the door, they don't exactly know what they're stepping into. But like, yeah, when you took all this time away, you had a whole extended family you missed, so that's a piece of it as well. You had some normality, but that, like we talked about, like there's all these other attributes that the sport provides that on the outside they don't understand it, nobody knows it, but we know it to be something that's like a church, and we know it to be something
Yes.
that you believe heavily in because you see the benefits that it can provide. So you get caught so weird. You get caught in that even when people come in now. Like I've seen people's moral goal line be moved back. Like people will go, well, I'm willing to leave my house. Of course, I got to leave my house. I got to go to work. I got to go to the grocery store, and that's essential to them. And then they go, yeah, but I won't walk in there. If I walk in there, I got to have a mask on. And it's like that was a new goal line for them they've set. That's like this new, like, yeah, I won't go that far. That's kind of pushy. So now when we get people coming in, we've tried to explain that to them, like, you compromise with yourself. You do it every day. When you leave, you don't think about it because you've accepted the terms because it's so, to you, it's so minuscule. But when you leave your house, you accept all risk and liability that you could be killed in a car crash pulling out of your driveway. You always hear that stuff like, you can slip on that doorstep right there and break your neck. And that line, you get caught so freakishly, like, yeah, but that's so minimal. But you compromise with yourself, like, I ain't studying that shit. I'm going to continue living life. Then there's a stopping point. And for everybody I've seen, they were, they were like plugging service industries. They were plugging, especially like gyms. They were like capping them, like, that's the moral line. We're not letting y'all go in there. And like mentally, people need this. First time since I was a kid that I've taken this amount of time away, not off the mat, but away, period. And, getting to be near people and still seeing these open mats and stuff. But even then, nobody knew what was going on. Everybody kind of tried to play the, you know what I mean? Like we all of us know the benefit, but you're all trying to find that middle ground. Like, do we go back? And then finally, dude, it's just a race. It's finally, they turn the gate open and it's like, fuck it, I'm going back. And you compromise with yourself. Like how much are you willing to give and give and give before it's time to go? Like, dude, I'm all right. I've given enough. I'm going back, and I'm willing to have the risk versus reward. And I see that what this has done for me when I was actively training, and I had this, mentally, physically, everything about it. And now this is a condition I'm in, and I'm not giving anymore. I'm gonna go back. We're seeing that now. We saw the slow emergence of it, of people like, hey, are y'all opening? And then all of a sudden everybody was like, hey, when are y'all gonna redo this? Hey man, we're ready to come back. Hey, we want to do this. We got to get out some, man. I think people started watching their health a little more. Crazy that it took something like this for people to kind of kick into that, like, hey, I hear that my immune system's important to fight this thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to get in shape now.
There's almost like a little bit of irony with it, isn't there? Because when I was talking about, like, the government said we need to reopen the economy because the short term even, but the long term effects of the health of our nation depends on us to reopen the economy, because people can be out of work, they can suffer from mental health, depression, things like that. But that would be more for like people who, I guess, get a check from this industry. But that's not like that with martial arts, because like we have people from all walks of life here. Like, that they can come here, they know that they can, it's like a church, they can feel safe here. And like we have people that suffer from post-traumatic stress within the law enforcement, first responder, and military. They needed this thing to reopen, right? And the longer, the thing that makes you high risk is your physical health, right? Like there's people that have, diseases and things like that and obesity, but the longer we keep them from being able to access this thing, which gives them the physical health benefits, and that we know now that the physical and the mental health are in tune with one another, that the high stress can lead to health problems that would leave you more susceptible to this virus for which we're closed for. Did that just make sense?
No, 100%. It's ironic that the things that were mostly closed were the things that lead you to a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
Which would keep you safe from the virus.
Exactly.
Man, it's weird to see mentality shift. Me and Cole talked about this last night, and I don't know why I laughed talking about it, but you see the overall like mind frame of people. Like we talked about, people now are focusing on health. There was like people, that was something that was directly mentioned to me in the door, was like, man, with this thing, and they go, I don't want to bring it up or anything. I know everybody's tired of hearing it, but I want to get in shape. Because as well as I do, you've signed people up, I've signed people up. They always tell you a lot of times, like, find the pain, and you may not come out at once, but you will. Somebody's like, I just want to get in shape, man. I'm kind of, I watch it on TV sometimes, and about a month later you hear that there is some kind of a phobia they have, or maybe a situation's happened, or maybe they went to the doctor and there was a scare, whatever it may be that caused them to actually walk in your door at the gym.
They got a divorce because their wife left them because they had the spare tire.
It's just like, there's a lot of things. So like you start to see people now focusing on health now from a COVID standpoint. Well, then, we've seen the shift of this. I've seen this over the years. We've seen multiple kids who played football who now have left football to come in and pursue jiu-jitsu from injury. But I was like, yes. I see these people, though, and I'm like, yo, last year a 220-pound human ran 80 yards and laid out a 120-pound human. And the parents like, man, them boys having the times of their life. Boy, they going to remember this night forever. And it's like, nah, only one of them will remember this night. The fucking other one's talking out the side of his neck right now, dude. Like, oh, man, them boys right there, they're loving life right now. Look at them having the time of their life. And it's like you're willing to overlook all the damage. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, I've seen these parents like yank kids back, like, no, like, stay away. You need to stay distance and all. And it's like, what kind of weird shit?
But we need our football.
Well, that kid just ate a tree on a dirt bike, and it's like, all hell, get up and dust it off, boy.
The thing that I love the most about this is the most staunch, out of shape, anti-government people I watched over the course of 2 or 3 months turn into the most pro-government, liberal bitches, because they know if they catch it, they're dead.
Yeah.
Okay. On the flip side of that, the people that were somewhat, liberal minded and pro science,
right.
whatever they were fed with a spoon, they ingested.
Right.
Now they're like, I think this is some bullshit, man.
Hey,
I'm ready to open everything up.
When I start,
I love watching it as an observer of human activity.
When I start counting nurses that work actively with patients in my gym, and I'm like counting them on fingers and toes, and I'm like, bro, why are they all in here? Maybe they got a really stressful job, maybe this, maybe that.
Understandable, yeah.
I don't know. Then I'm like, but damn, dude, they know the risk. Once again, when you walk in, that's a kid asked me the other day. He came in, he was very standoffish, he was very skittish, he seemed nerve-wracked, and he just asked me, what precautions? And this is to where, as business owners and as coaches, because you got them people like, I had a lady ask me, man, I really miss this sport, but I'm sorry, I can't get behind a business who's not trying to curb the spread of COVID. And I was like, why did you even inquire about coming out? She's like, well, if you guys ever do outdoor classes, call me. Okay, no problem. We have 22-foot ceilings. We have 2 bay doors open, have a 24-foot ceiling fan. You're kickboxing. You're about as outdoors as you're going to get, but once again, when you left your house, you assumed all liability. Something would happen. You got your mask on. You're in Walmart. So is a dude in front of you. Whatever. It's not. You're not bulletproof. You're not virus proof at that point. They're like, yeah, but it minimizes that risk. And I was like, so you're willing to live with that, but that minimal risk of you breaking your neck on the front doorstep that your mom used to always say, you excuse that. We're like, oh, that's shit. That won't happen. Now that was actually probably more likely to happen and kill you than the other one. According. As far as like what we're talking about, but. We seen a guy ask me that the other day, and I had to. You try not to talk political with him, and you try not to talk you try not to press hard on them, but I was like, as a business owner, why am I open? And I said, basically what I'm doing as my precautionary measure is you're in a large setting. I said, but there is no precautionary measure for this thing. So to say, when you walk into any establishment, you assume all risk and liability. Stop
You
looking at it.
You always assume all risk and liability.
Stop looking at it like the business is there to protect you. They're like, when I'm in Walmart, I shouldn't have to feel this way. You can't control other humans. You can't control human habits. You can't control acts of nature, anything like that. So, and they look at that. They look like, well, what is a Google review going to say about that? And I'm like, I don't give a fuck, actually.
Right. You assumed the risk of leaving your kids fatherless when you took that one last shot before you decided to drive home to the house
there's
from the bar
there's a
after
lot
work.
of compromise, and that's right.
You'll do all these things which are
more grave in
right
consequence.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
But to you, it's known and it's repeated. I guess this is our first pandemic, so they're like, I can't believe you're willing to do that. I can't believe that. And it's
you guys will get a kick out of this one. I had a lady inquire about signing their. It was for a 4 to 6 year old program. They were 4, 5, or 6, obviously. So, wanted to know how many students were in a class, and how long the class lasted, and how many coaches on the mat. And I just had to ask her, does your child have any physical or mental issues that are making you ask these questions for this 4 to 6 year old program? And she was saying that basically COVID was the reason that she was asking about that and wanted to know about those details. But if I told her how many we had on a mat, that we had about 15 on a mat plus a couple coaches, and then she asked about private lessons that she would be getting from one of these coaches that stands on a mat with 15 of these kids and also teaches classes to 100 adults per week. So being on the mat at the same time as the 15 kids, that's dangerous. But getting a one-on-one private this close with somebody who just integrated with 181 students throughout the week, that's okay. That's safety right there.
Right. Yeah, and that's where almost everyone you talk to, you can kind of cherry pick they're cherry picking they's different aspects of what the quote unquote experts are wanting us to be done. But at the same time, they're like creating this path of I'm this is acceptable
That's
for
right.
me, and I'm just going to cherry pick this.
Right.
And anybody who thinks outside of what I think about this, well, they don't know what they're talking
That's
about.
right.
They're idiots, because I'm the one that knows how to keep myself safe.
Right.
And there's people who live with somebody who is a legitimate high risk.
Right.
I mean, legitimate. They are cancer patients, and I know that they may feel one way about it, but if there's even a hint of truth or their ability to keep their loved ones safe, then they just have to make the sacrifice for jiu-jitsu right now. Right. That's not what we're talking about.
No, we're talking about just regular basic life.
We're just talking about the regular basic life.
Yeah. It boils down when we talked about it, there's never an intention to stop the virus. It was to slow it. And I think a lot of people get lost in that translation.
Right.
And what you talked about, some of these people who are like pro-government now. The other day I had it out. I had this disagreement with a dude who he trains in Atlanta, and he was all about like anybody. I'm waiving my attorney fees for anybody arrested in the protest. And I was, and I'm just like, God, Jesus. So you're condoning, let's say, people tearing shit up, et cetera, because he was like, let these people talk, let these people express their opinion. This is what you get, kind of thing. Well, this guy, on the same note, it was really weird because I see him. He's more on the civil and the civil unrest we're having right now side of things, more than the COVID side of things. But I've asked this time and time again. I've talked with him about the way to stop the entire spread. Period. The way to stop things is to never be exposed to it, which means you never could leave. Never. You literally have to completely distance yourself away. And then you make compromises with yourself. And the compromises, that's probably, like you said, they make their own path. Like, oh, come on, that ain't going to happen. Let me just be real, that ain't going to happen. So I will do this. And their moral compass is starting to shift a bit at a time. But yeah, I get stuff like, we bicker online from time to time about stuff, and it's normally all in good, but lately he like dives in on people on certain things, and it's like, if you disagree, oh, you're not smart enough, you're a dipshit, or you're this.
And this is probably not one of those people who was creating or stirring the pot prior to this, right?
None. That's
he was
the
not
crazy
one of those
thing, man.
types.
And
It's
he's
like,
a super
that's
humble
what you're talking
guy,
about. You're
man,
like
but he's
you're talking about watching these people just come out the woodwork and
he's turned into
completely change
this
their tune.
I've seen this turn into this kind of a pro-government guy, and it all turned out, and it was like, there's compromises though that you're willing to make. Everybody's willing to make them. We all make that risk versus reward in our heads, and we all weigh in options every day. It's like having an extra amount of money. You weigh out what you want, what you need. Oh, I want this new car. You know what, man? I guess I will. I'll pick up an extra shift at work. You make these things in your head to make that path feel right and feel good. And if anybody disagrees, it's crazy to see it all morally switch around like that. But yeah, I have the same things we've talked about with private lessons too, as well as like I have people asking me about that, like to do private instruction, and I've wondered that, like,
I touch 200 people a week. And
you're
asking for a private lesson.
I want to point at Lindsey Jones. I was like, do you see that down there? I was face to face with that guy on the ground a minute ago, breathing his oxygen. Look at him. Do you want me to now?
He's got 5 stripes on his.
You want me to now to work with you? Okay. Well, now, okay. It's weird, man. It's like I think everybody's got their goal line, and we've talked about like they're making these little exceptions along the way, and I don't judge. You want to wear a mask? You wear a mask. That's completely up to you. I went to Publix. They required or whatever. I see. It's like I wore one, walked in, left. It was never about that. It was about this, though.
That's not a big
It was
deal.
never about that. Like you talked about these people though that have turned, and they have and they go, but you could give it to somebody, and I go, motherfucker, you never cared about anybody else before this. The somebody you're actually referring to is you. You're afraid I can give it to you. You are saying, you're masking you with, you could give it to that 90-year-old guy over there. Like, that bitch has survived 9 world wars. He's okay.
You're blowing secondhand smoke in your kid's face, and you're trying to tell me about.
But this exact thing, they're going, you could give it to somebody. You could take it home. And I said, when have you ever cared about me or anybody else besides yourself? You fucking buggy leaving out motherfucker. It's like morally.
You got a reverse cam, and you don't even look at that when you back out of your space. You almost hit somebody, and now you're.
Nice.
The government orders right now in Georgia are if you are, medically fragile is the terminology I think they're using. Medically fragile or immuno-challenged or whatever, to shelter in place. Everyone else is supposed to be out now at that same time.
So anyone who's medically fragile, those are the people putting themselves at risk based off of the government.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that this is what the Georgia, rules are right now. All right, that's what's implemented.
So you mean basically what Sweden did?
Yes. Basically, yes.
So I know this is like before we knew anything, but how not funny, haha. There's nothing I guess to laugh about our current state in the nation, but like how funny is it like that high blood pressure was one of the things that like you gotta go home and stay in shelter.
Right.
Like the government was saying high blood pressure. High blood pressure, anyone can have high blood pressure. That is not a sign. It can be, but that is not a direct sign linked to poor health. You know how many like professional athletes out there just have high blood pressure?
Yeah. That's slightly
or high resting heart rate.
Elevated.
blood pressure. Yeah, elevated blood pressure. Yeah, I have 3 daughters. That's
High
why
cholesterol.
I fucking dealt with this bullshit.
If you take my blood pressure at certain points,
Yeah.
my blood pressure is probably
Yeah.
fucking high. But like, I mean, normally my blood pressure is pretty stellar, and so is my resting heart rate. That doesn't mean that I'm like extremely healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you when I do something cardiovascular wise, I have to hit my second wind.
Yeah.
Those first 5 minutes are like,
Yeah.
and then when I hit my second wind, then whatever I have, whatever healthy choices I've made in my life, all of a sudden kick in.
Uh-huh.
I'm not falling over. Some people just fall over at that point.
If you try to take my blood pressure, when a woman asks me about private lessons for her 4 to 6 year old,
Right. Yeah.
then it's probably going to be a little bit high.
Yeah.
All right.
There is white coat syndrome too. That's
What is this?
This
Smart
is
guy, come on.
Well, okay. Angie McKay, y'all. So when you walk into a doctor's office and you are physically and medically fine, okay, but the white coat that you see coming through the door of a doctor being able and having the ability or power to tell you that you are not healthy elevates your blood pressure enough to where it is kind of a false.
Okay.
So
It's actually called white coat hypertension.
there you go. Yeah.
Huh.
Damn.
Like it's actually high blood pressure caused by white coats.
Cooter,
You know,
on top of it.
I'm going to
white
say
coat
this.
hypertension.
I appreciate him doing that right there because the last podcast I was at, he just sat there and kind of turned the nozzles and everything. And this is what I need right now.
Yeah.
This is
Let
what
me
we
drown.
need. This is what we need.
All right. Let's push forward. So lessons learned. Jiu-jitsu essential. All right. All right. The green belt. You know, like this is something that has been around for quite a long time. Some other systems like John's, it's like you have a blue stripe, white belt with a blue stripe. Like, what's the big fucking deal? All right, let me explain the history of this thing first, and then this fake people pretending that they don't know what it is, and we can get into all that stuff. It really eats me. The green belt. All right, it's not an official belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. American Top Team started this thing in 2004. They started in 2001. They implemented the green belt in 2004. And it was what they designed it for originally was a way to maintain retention and also let the people who were at that level know you are making progress, because white belt is a tough belt. White belt is 6 months to almost 3 years.
Right.
It depends on you, like what your gifts are, prior grappling background, what your mind is like, how you acquire it, how often you can train. There's a lot of variables. Are you unhealthy to start? Are you coordinated? There's a lot of things. Do you have a good instructor who can relay the information? Do you have training partners that can push you? There's a lot of reasons that would take someone as short as 6 months or someone as long as 3 years. Did you get injured? You know, a lot. So the green belt was created to let the students know, hey, you are doing good. Just keep sticking with it. And then since then, because in other martial arts, you can have a black belt in 2.5, 3 years, right? It has happened. So it was like made as a form of student retention, but not just to keep the money coming in, but also to be like, good job, like a positive reinforcer. Maintain this upward trend, and you're almost to the blue belt. Okay, not 2 months away, but like maybe a little more than halfway there. Okay, like something like that. And now, what we use it for, and then we can get into what other people use it for.
Right.
I use it as like this. You are basically a competition ready white belt.
That's what we use it for.
You are not a sandbagged blue belt. That's what some other people do. It's like they give these guys a green belt, and it's like they'll go crush a blue belt division. That's not what our green belt is. Okay, there's a certain level of techniques and principles and concepts that you must know as a white belt or moving on toward the blue belt. So at this green belt level, and there has to be a certain level of mat toughness. So even if you know all the techniques, but you're not mat tough, you're still not ready for a green belt. You got to have mat toughness. And mat toughness, like for people that maybe don't know out there, is like you're going to have shoulders being put in your face. It's another human being is going to be on top of you. It doesn't feel good. And those people that instead of staying calm and pushing through and fighting through that, when they kind of cower and they lead themselves further into worse territory and submission, you're just not mat tough yet. Okay?
Yeah. Anyone who has a problem with the insertion of any instructor putting something before the minimum requirement. Like our minimum requirement was blue belt.
Right.
For so long. Okay. You're putting a minimum requirement before the previous minimum requirement. You're not adding to the back end. You're putting it before the front end, which is giving you as an instructor Okay, the ability to evaluate not only your students but yourselves in the way of like, this is what I see as a blue belt, this is what I see as this student, this is the good things that this student's doing. Anybody also, another thing about that, they don't have a fucking clue about the history of martial arts. All right, how old's the black belt? Because I remember a sign when I walked into my Taekwondo studio when I was a kid, and that sign had the history of the black belt, and it was complete bullshit. Okay, and that was that students would start with a white belt, and after all the dirt and sweat and blood,
I heard that.
Yeah,
I've been told that.
it's complete bullshit.
Okay.
Jigoro Kano, who is the founder of judo, was also a teacher at the University of Tokyo. Okay, all right, or Edo or whatever it was called back then. But at the time, he was taking 2 different forms of jiu-jitsu, okay? Taking those 2 different forms and reading Western wrestling books, okay? The first official judo throw was the kataguruma, which is a fireman's carry, okay? That was the first path for him to develop judo, okay? The swimmers that were swimming in a pond in Japan, for that university, the ones that had the black ribbon around their waist had already made the team. The judogi, our kimono that we wear, is actually the underwear that you would wear, that people would wear up under a basic kimono. You know, you see the old photos. They were short sleeve. They went down to the knees. All right, it was a training gear. That's all, and there was white and black belt. That was it.
Yeah.
All right, the first known colored belts come from France, from a judo instructor in France who was Japanese. The Kodokan didn't have a problem with it because they instituted it. They were brought to Brazil because our current Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu colors were the colors of the Judo Federation in Brazil. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or the Gracies, and a few of the other offshoot Jiu-Jitsu lineages all got together and chose to match the colors with the Brazilian Judo Federation of the time. So that's where we got our colors. Okay, for my particular lineage, I had to test at each belt. Okay, and I had to test in between each belt. All right, and the way that we saw that test wasn't so much as, yes, it was a test to see what you knew, but it was a test to let you know what you're missing. Because at the end of that test, you were going to be told exactly what you were missing to get to the next rank. You might be told that you did well, but I had a sheet of paper at the end of that was signed off by my instructor that told me everything that I was missing to make it to blue belt, everything I was missing to make it to purple belt. And the reason why that was instituted that particular way in my lineage is because Hickson, back in the early 90s, when he was starting his association, a lot of people were trying to join that association at the time. It was, and there was no way of evaluating the base level blue belt students. There was no way of doing it. So they instituted a test and a rank in between the white and blue belt to make sure that whenever, and only certain instructors within his association were allowed to administer this test. So you might have multiple schools, but only 3 guys could travel to each of those schools and administer that test. And administering that test, then you had a baseline of, well, we're not going straight to white to blue belt. We're going to a blue stripe because we don't have a personal association with this student. I'm having to test this student who's yours. And the test is a reflection on you.
It's a standard maintenance.
Exactly. And
Perfect.
I mean, what's the problem with that? If you got a problem with that,
then, another thing is I see that people, it's usually mostly the lower ranks. They'll be like, what's that? It's like, motherfucker, you know what this is. Bro. there are Gracie Baja schools that have instituted a green belt or something in between. There's lots of academies all over the place, and they'd be like, "Is that a kid's belt?" It's like, nah,
Dude,
bitch.
I mean-
like, shut up. You know what this shit is. Quit acting like that. And then people, there's tournaments. Tournaments have acknowledged it. It's like, but I'll see something that I don't like there is they'll have a white belt and they'll have like a green and blue division. It's like, my students, they are told, no, you keep that white belt. The green belt is a white belt. I don't care if one of those things says the green belt goes to blue belt. You don't, because they don't know what my standard for a green belt is.
That's right.
A green belt is not a sandbagger. Like, it's like the day you deserve it is the day that you get it. And what it is comp ray white belt. You don't have to ask me permission to compete anymore. You can go, no, I'm not going to travel with you, all the time, but you can you're cleared hot.
Yeah.
Now you can kind of start coming to all these classes, and you can kind of pursue jiu-jitsu, see how take that red pill and see how deep this rabbit hole goes, kind of thing. But I'll just see, like, or if you didn't, if you're kind of old school and you never even had a stripe on your belt, you just had that belt till you got the next belt. Cool. What's your problem with this?
Yeah.
What's your problem with stripes? If you don't like it, you don't got to do it at your academy. But you don't got to, like, bring it to light in any kind of way.
You know, had a big issue was the Federation had an issue with Derek.
Okay.
One of my guys competed. He was a former Division I wrestler.
Right.
And in the name of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he was a white belt.
Right.
He was new. He graduated to a green. He goes to the Pans, and they were like, "What is this green belt thing? You have to have a white belt." And I was like, "Yeah, put the white belt on. It's, no problem, Derek." Then when they watched him on the mat, he's out here like walking the dogs. And so then they do their research on it, found out Derek's name. They look up and he pulls up and, in flow wrestling, he pulls up on some other stuff and on the mat. And then they're like pulling him over and like, you can't be here, And then we have it out and I'm just like,
Where am I supposed to be?
he's a white belt. He's a legit white belt. The dude knows positionary work, but, well, hold on now. It's like, in the name of jiu-jitsu here, he's a white belt. I mean, I get it's another grappling art, but they were more adamant about like this green belt thing. What is this? He should be a blue belt then. And I was like, it's not that. And like, so our stance on it as well is the same. We use it as a competition approved white belt, but at the same time, I don't know if you remember the surfer kid that Rafael Rebello had. There's green belt 14-year-olds who I know that I've trained with who would beat the flying shit out of a grown-ass purple
blue and
man.
purple belt, yeah.
And this kid was one of them. He is a kid who, of course, when he's 16 and graduated to the adult belt ranking, I want to say Rebello tied, like, the purple on the kid. And he was like, this is the kid. This kid is the guy. He was this little beautiful surfer kid, fucking like, looked like a fucking Ken Barbie doll.
Yeah.
He was fucking ripped to the gills. He trained, he homeschooled, skateboarded to the damn gym, trained all day.
Got a 12-pack.
Bitch and apparently the bitch could surf too. I'm like, man, what the fuck can this kid not do? But he was good. But like, there's these other guys though that we use it for. These juniors. I mean, the green belt it's a junior elite belt, and it's the highest rank, which is what I absolutely love because we have kids that come to our gym that go, yeah, my cousin's 12. He's a black belt, and I'm just like, well, that's great. He's like, so why don't we get black belts here? I was like, because you will get one black belt in your life. And it's when you can kill another grown man. And you cannot. And you should not teach another man how to kill another grown man if you are not there. But I do.
100%.
I do see that. And I like that. You get that belt tied around you one time in your life. And it's when you are mentally mature enough to where it really means the most in your life. To me, I compared it to when I, had my first, second, third kid. That's cold to say I had my first kid. Yeah. And because and it was like it was a notable day for me. But like we have green belt kids or who are on that cusp, who are yellow belts, and now they're in the adult belt ranking. They're not ready for a blue belt.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're going to get a green belt. They're going to get an adult green belt. That's a great merger belt from the juniors to the adult level, and that's what we have seen and used it as. It's been a great merger for that that adulthood. You're not at the blue belt yet, but I'm not going to take the yellow belt off you and put a white belt on you now because you're in the adult belt rank.
I have no problem doing that.
But you're not
I don't.
I'm gonna tell you something. Me having one of my green belts in a white belt division or Derek competing in a white belt division, is less disgusting than one of these kids you're talking about with a green belt who the day they turn 16 graduating to a blue belt and competing in a blue belt division.
Yeah.
You know, these kids should be purple belts and sometimes brown belts depending on who their coach was and where they were training. So Derek stomping up on some adult white belts as being a green belt, like that's less disgusting than these 16-year-old kids getting a blue belt the day they turn 16.
Yeah, and there's some big names that, you know, of course, Laborio, you know, and when in top team, Hobson Mora, Salo Ribeiro, them guys all implement the green belt into their systems. Yeah. And it's, you know, so there's big names, but we get that too. Like, we have guys who start with us, but they go back home and they visit family and they're like, yeah, they didn't have any green belts there. They're still kind of new into the game, you know, as far as like, you know, they've seen maybe some larger names, but or if they go to tournaments, you know, but that's that conversation we have to have at what we use it for, and it's never been argued like, you know what I mean? They go back home but what they go home and they're like, hey, like I do really good with my blue belts at home, like really good. I feel, you know, and I'm like, good for you, you know.
This is what was described as a blue belt to me. You're no longer a beginner in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, we're talking about lowering the minimum standards for us, okay? Well, that means that the student's doing well, but he's not a blue belt yet by our standards. And maybe the people that question that need to evaluate what they think a blue belt is.
Absolutely.
Because maybe the blue belt was handed out too much during the initial commercialization and spread of the art, and while we were training back then and we weren't black belts yet, but we watched this first initial spread kind of permeate throughout, maybe there were some people that were quality coaches that were running big organizations and like, hey, our blue belt standard is lowering, and that's a problem. We need to do something to cut that off at the head by instituting something in between. Before our old minimum standard was, we have to do something better. Right. And that's where the, you know, and you were talking about, you know, the getting your black belt, you know, equated to, you know, this monumental thing. You're like, I didn't graduate college. You know, I started, you know, working for the company I've been working for. It'll be 16 years ago this week that I started with that company. So I don't have a piece of paper behind my name for anything because that company trained me to do every job that I've had out there, right? You know, I was either taught by my brother, my dad, or that company, okay, to do all the things that I know how to do except jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu, I have a piece of paper behind my name, all right, and I have, you know, people that can vouch for me. And that's good enough for me to like that, but that has been my biggest accomplishment, is receiving the black belt in jiu-jitsu, because it took more than most people when they go to, you know, such and such academy or whatever and get like a degree in leisure studies or something, you know. Believe me, it took a lot of blood, a lot of injuries, a lot of you know, financial risk, and, you know, personal relationship risks. Like, you know, hey, you're gonna lose some friends doing this. That's the bottom line. If they're not, because you change your lifestyle to this more healthy standard, and you're going to drop those people that, you know, were doing things with you that probably wasn't the
it's a purifier.
Yeah.
It definitely forges you, and it forges what's important to you, the people that you find most important that are going to stick around. I think that, like you talked about that as well. Like we talk about how monumental I like seeing the kids that like get ecstatic over the belt level, because it is not given once every month. And it's like, it is something that should be and that's what we come in contact with. We have two great little kids at our gym, but they are like, they're running through the ranks at their other martial arts academy they train at, and they're amazing kids. But they now, one of them, the oldest one, is old enough to see this, where he's been promoted one time in my gym. And then where he's been now, since I've known him, he's been promoted like 5 times. But it's like his parents taught to me, and I try to tell him, I said, there's combat sports in general is protected by 2 major things, skill and integrity. And when I start giving belts out to your kid, and they dress them like the same, but they're not twins, and I'm like, and I've done that. I've had 2 brothers test, and one got a belt, one didn't. That's just the reality of the world we live in. And
been there.
Yeah, and it's tough.
Yeah, I've had my students
Yeah.
fail the test that my
Yeah.
instructor was given, and it was like, and it's like a reflection on me. But I'm like, bro, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a failure on my part at the same, it just as much as his.
Right, and it's and I try to, when we talk about like promoting that you have to find, and I think coaching comes down to that too. And owning a martial arts academy, it's business and charity mixed, and you have to find that equal balance in coaching. Of your job as a coach is to continue stimulating that interest in that person, trying to maintain contact with them, trying to express it, and maybe like we talked about, like the stripes was, Cole can tell you I'm not big on the stripes. I just never.
I never had one till brown belt.
Yeah.
Lebo promoted a bunch of guys to brown belt, and he just saw that I was different than all these people that were these like 10 people standing next to me. So he was like, and getting the 2 stripes, Magrino, like it was like one of those kind of things. But I had never got
5th stripe reassurance that he gave the one brown belt.
Dude, I literally saw it happen. Like I'm just standing there, and he was like, I could see him like scanning, and he goes, and getting the 2 stripes, like he caught it on the fly. But I had never had a stripe before. I knew what they were. I didn't go, what are these stripes? What is this thing? Like nobody had a problem with it. And we're not suggesting that we institute a new division within the IBJJF standards. We're just saying, let the green belt lie. Let it lie. Leave it alone. Leave us alone. We want to do it or not do it. You want to keep letting these 16-year-old, 15-year-old green belts move to an adult blue belt division next year. You should go to hell for that. But I'm over here. I want to have a green belt. You better let me have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely some exceptions there that I've seen. I'm like, there's no humanly way that kid better get a blue belt. I'd fight that kid in the alleyway right now. It'd probably be close.
It'd be competitive.
I'd be like, this son of a bitch. But like I trained with a kid at Kenny Kim's the same way. Some green belt. I don't know. Something about seeing a fucking 5'7", pencil thin, lanky kid with a gi that came up to his shins. I was like, oh, this kid's gonna be good. This kid's in a cheater gi with the sleeves up to here, and I saw his rusty little green belt, and I was like, that son of a bitch is almost brown.
Yeah.
I was like, this kid's gonna be really good, and he was a crafty kid. And if I wasn't as strong, by compared to him, and had the scramble ability, I'd be like, dude, I can see where you be, and I can see where his dad was like, hey, you want to train with him today, and I'm like, motherfucker, I know what you're saying. This kid, I can tell he looks good. Yeah. He's a humble kid, and he was really good. I was like, dude, you're gonna be hell on, and he's probably 17 now, 18.
Yeah.
I was like, you're gonna be hell on with shit. He's actually probably older than that. But I was like, you're gonna be hell on wheels, man. You're like really good. And if he was a little bit stronger, a lot of stuff he for sure would have been getting away with it. And I'm like, there's no way that dude should get a blue belt. That dude is way above the blue belt level at by the time he's going to be 16, he's going to crush people.
I got to train with Mikey Musumeci when he was like 9, 10, and 11. Yeah. He was already an adult purple belt level back then.
Oh, I believe it.
So like to see him go and be like world champion at blue, purple, and brown, it's like, man, your instructor should have gone to hell for that. Like when you were a yellow belt, you were already a purple belt. Like that's how good he was, And all kids aren't going to be like that. He's a one in a billion. He's something special.
Well, I still got Zeke in a white belt.
Yeah.
So it's like
you ought to go to hell. but like when you talked about skill and integrity, obviously somebody like that has a good bit of skill, but he doesn't have the knowledge to back up the skill.
Right.
So there's a blend of both. And then time served also. That's always going to be there. But let the instructor do what the instructor wants to do. And
the mats are going to tell the truth about it either way.
Yeah, so what do you care?
So what's it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't. Moving on. So, students, I think it's nice when they ask me to compete, if they can compete.
Yeah.
Not for fighting or anything like that. We're talking about just jiu-jitsu. But I don't really think that you need to ask me. I mean, like, you're an adult, like I think that maybe if you want my input on what you should work for the competition, that's good. But I'm not big on permission, shit, you're older than me, sir. Like maybe what can I learn from you maybe? But like, you don't need to ask me if you can go compete. Now we have like official, what I call team tournaments. That means that like I encourage everybody to sign up because me and the coaching staff will go. We will all be coaching on the mat. But if you got that green belt especially, go ham. You want to go to Alabama and South Carolina and you want to travel and do this jiu-jitsu thing? Awesome. Now, I can't leave my family every Saturday and Sunday to go with you, but you don't got to ask me. You know, what do you guys think about that? Students asking permission.
So
It's different, right?
It's like it is one of them touchy subjects because some students have this like mind frame that like you own them kind of thing. Like, hey, can I go compete? But I like my lower belts to not to ask me, but like you talked about the input. I want my lower belts to understand what they're getting into, and I want them to understand that tournaments are just like practice. You're going to get better with them. They can be nerve wracking. They need to understand tournament prep, understand match prep, mental mind frames to get into at the tournament, their routines and things like that. I like to, obviously for their first tournament, I like to be there for it. I like to walk them through it. I like to help them with it. Like, hey, you know, and you get to see them and see how they act, and you kind of get some input on them. Because as a coach, you want your students to have success, but success isn't just based on the medal. It's based on what you see them perform and pull the trigger and do, and they get to see firsthand. My upper belts though, like they have, you know, they have at it. Like I was at a tournament, like you said, like you all kind of want to be there. What I guess what I don't like that a lower belt, I've seen this in the lower belts, not the uppers. They'll go, hey, I signed up for that tournament on the 13th. You're going to be there, right, coaching me? And I'm like, nobody else. No, nobody told me. We didn't have anybody going. That's not a tournament we're going to go to. Last time we went, we didn't have a good outcome. Like little divisions and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, who's going to coach me? You know, or you know what I mean? It's kind of one of them entitled things. It's like, see, that's where you need to listen.
And I didn't do other martial arts growing up. Mm-hmm. And you did wrestling.
Right.
That's not something you asked. That was just
no. In
wrestling. It's like you better be competing.
Yeah.
What about you?
I did taekwondo tournaments growing up.
Did you have to ask to compete? Like I don't know much about it.
No, but there were inter association tournaments, and like I was with the Thomson Association, who's big, you know, around Middle Georgia. Mm-hmm. It'd be a huge tournament because there's so many students. It's almost like everybody, you know, would compete or would go into the tournament and do it. But like since it was in house, it wasn't like, you know, you were winning the, you know, the Olympic trials or anything. You were just winning the association. You know, I'm saying winning because I won everything. But but the main thing that like when I get that, like all I ask for students is to, all right, if you are coming up to me saying that, hey, you know, this tournament's coming up in X amount of time, and I was thinking about competing, what do you think? Or I'm going to sign up, or can I sign up? Whatever the pathway to that conversation, whatever their like presentation of that conversation is to me, you know, I say the same thing every time. It's like, well, I want to see you in the gym.
Very good. And maybe not in the fundamentals classes.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's all I want to see. Right. I want to see you in the gym, and I want to see you rolling. When it's time to roll, I want you doing situational stuff. I want you just to take training a little bit more serious.
Right.
When somebody shows up twice a month and then they come up to me and they're wanting to compete, and I'm like, well, hey man, like, you know, you do you, but like let's reevaluate, you know, like your perspective on how good you are right now.
Right.
You know, like,
right.
I mean, is it possible that, you know, because a lot of people don't realize that, especially at that beginner level, that you know, some people are taking it easy on you. Some of those upper belts are taking it easy on you.
They're letting you work.
Yes. They're trying to help you out because they're trying to create a good training partner for them. Yeah. Because guess what? When you start really doing good, all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh man, that guy really, like, he just put it on me today. It's like, no, he's been holding back for a year on you, man.
Right.
Like, that's just how the nature of the martial art is.
Right.
Yeah.
And the more we can acclimate people into like a, you know, a solid culture, that's good. But
yeah, we have like you spoke of like want to see you in the gym kind of thing. We have the purple belt, the Purple Haze tournament's coming up. All the purple belts, the NFC's putting it on. I had zero idea that, but like 2 of our guys are already locked in, and 2 more are getting ready to lock in. And I was like, awesome. Show me that you want to win it. Stay in here. Stay active.
Treat it like a training camp for a fight, but just for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, don't
right?
go enroll in a tournament and set yourself up for failure and set yourself back further mentally. You know what I mean? By saying like, man, fuck, I went in there and I got crushed. Well, yeah, but you weren't training in the right classes. You weren't training the right amount of time. You didn't take it serious. You gave them money and basically let them run away with it.
I mean, like your head should be in the game on what the game is.
Right.
At white belt, you don't know what the game is.
Right.
You're just joining. You're joining the fun. This looks fun. Let's jump in. At purple belt, that's the professional belt.
Do y'all have to convince your white belts or your green belts to take the leap first? Like, do you have to go, hey guys, hey y'all, because I got guys. There's a tournament coming up August 29th. Man, I really want to see some new faces in it, guys. Like, you guys are all doing really good. You're training hard. Hey, put it to the test, man. Instead of coming here having the damn 80cc trials in the gym, go actually do it in front of people that you don't know. You know, with people you don't know, put your skill set to the test and see what a tournament's like. You might really get addicted to it and get hooked on it.
Our kids, we don't have to have that talk.
Yeah.
They just do it. And I think that here in Middle Georgia, there's a competitive nature amongst the kids. I think it has to do with like the region of the country. It's the South, and maybe it kind of has crossed over from football and baseball into this. But parents here, they want their kids to compete. It's like the kid might not want to compete. Well, you're competing, you know. But the adults, I have to beg them, man. I'm like, because some of them, it's like, you don't got to ask me for permission. I'm begging you to please do it, because what I tell them is competition will show you if your jiu-jitsu really works. You know, like maybe you're investing in the wrong moves. Maybe what you think is your best move isn't your best move. And this will give you some insight into what your jiu-jitsu really is. At white belt, you don't have your jiu-jitsu yet, but you can compete and find out what you're naturally good at, what types of movements that you like. If you have some takedowns, you can get it's best to shake this out. This, like, I'm making it a very tense for the people listening on audio only. Like there's a lot of isometric like gripping and people kind of burning their arms and their limbs out as they're training. It's best to get that over with as soon as possible so you can get into a competitive, what I'll call a flow, to where you're more comfortable on the mat. The people who have always performed at the highest level were the people that were had a certain level of comfort and confidence, and they knew that they owned the mat or the ring or the octagon or whatever it was. So it's, if you want to be good at this, really good, like some people train for self-defense, good. You can stay in your lane, or you've had 5 ACL injuries and you're not wanting to compete, and you're 40 years old or 30 years old and you've lived a hard life. You don't have to. That's not the guy I'm talking about. But there's some people who I can tell they think that they're really into this, but they've never competed. And it's like, man, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Lose? Perform under your ability? Get that over with at white belt, so when you're the man at blue belt, you don't have to face that level of defeat later. Yeah, when I see that's, so I kind of like talk openly at the end of when everybody's lined up, but I have like my eye kind of on when I watch. You watch those guys that turn up the heat in training, are like, go compete, man, go compete. Like, you're competing inside this gym, go compete outside of this gym. And but yeah, I got guys that, like, they're older guys that work in offices, and they're like, nah, I'm just like, and they'll be the ones that'll come up and be like, hey, I heard about this because they're like bucket list guys. They're like,
right,
hey man, I ain't got nothing to prove, ain't got nothing to lose. I want to try it. And I'm like,
I love that.
That's awesome.
I love that right there.
That's really cool that, you went from an office party to now about to break somebody's arm off in a tournament, or vice versa. But no, them are the guys that I get. But I see the guys that are young guys that are turning it up and that are, that I'm like, I'd like to see you compete. I have a couple that I would love to see compete. Good God, man. And they just like, oh man, I got work kind of thing. I was like, what?
That
you got
fear,
work? Come on, dude, you're fine, man.
That fear of failure can be big for people.
It is, and it's like we've talked about this as what the benefit of the sport, but some things never die. I mean, I faced this thing a lot when I was younger, but you have these walls that you put up, and you know your coaches see the best in you, but you still have these things. Professional fighters see it all the time. You have what you view yourself as, what you want to view yourself as. You have what you think others view you as, which is the most dangerous one. And then you have what you think, you know, what you want others to view you as. And there's these walls that get broken down. And you know this. Normally in training, you deplete somebody down to the bare minimum, and you can build a great competitor from there. Somebody who's tasted adversity and defeat a lot. And you've kicked them around so fucking much in the gym. Is like, what can happen to you now? Nothing. You've been beat down by everybody in here. You've been shut down. You've lost, so to say. You've faced so much challenge and uphill adversity, and you've overcome it. You're good now, and there's some things that just never die, though, man. It's I try to look at this, and I mean it's on a whole different subject, but it's we talked about like the outside life of a lot of people, and when you know I get sometimes people hit me up like when I see them out and about, they're like, oh man, you got so and so training down there. Yeah, that's a bad motherfucker, ain't it? And I can see then like this guy's gonna have a tough like this. That's great that this guy sees a lot in him. But I wonder if that's because this is the image he's portrayed to his group, and he now has to back it up, and he knows if he fucks up, that's going to be his hardest at that time. And we know, like we talked about forging, you get rid of them motherfuckers as you go, but that's going to be the hardest dude right there. Is going to judge him like, man, you got your ass beat out there.
Exactly.
And it's like, bitch, you ain't done shit besides sit here and criticize me.
The people that are going to judge the most or have the most negative things to say, like my mom was like that. Like I remember like you know like if I got kicked a certain way and I would win a match or something like that, I remember things that she would say, be like, yeah, that guy kicked you like right in the rib or whatever like that, or you know, or like you know just random things like that, you know, because she was just uneducated about the actual sporting aspects of it. But yeah, you get the worst kind of negative talk from the people who are like bottom feeder level like
Right.
mentality.
Right.
Like they have no understanding of everything that you have to go through in order to just get through that point. And when people come up, I'm trying to create martial art lifers.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what I want. I want people to, when in 10, 15 years, if they moved away, I want to be able to see them at a seminar and be like, hey, I'm pointing to an imaginary person that, you know, hey, and come up, give them a hug and be like, hey, because I know that maybe I had a small part in that person's, you know, influence in that person's, you know, pursuit of the martial arts, and hopefully they're doing the same thing for somebody else.
Especially here, right, with our military influence in our city.
100%. Yeah. Some of the best students I've had. I'm going to, you know, Andres Sanchez, Marcos Gutierrez. These are guys who came in from out of town, trained with me, and, you know, now I got a friend for life.
Right.
Might not ever see him again.
Right.
But now I got a friend for life, you know, because, you know, because I'm always, if I cancel all my social media accounts and in 2 years I join another one, I'm searching their names, trying to find their usernames and stuff, you know, trying to get back in touch with them, you know.
Yeah, it's a rather, you know, when we talk about the competing aspect of it, that's when you start to see a blend of a person, and you know, there's some people out there who are just weekend warriors, and then you start to really dig into the person. Then, like me and Cole have talked about the ratio. The ratio is, and it's a very lenient ratio, but the 100 people walk in the door ratio, and out of the 100, three are physically able to maintain to make it. We talk about fighting professionally. And out of those 3, 2 can financially afford what needs to be done, and they're physically fit for it. And then out of those 2, 1 has the mental capacity to understand what is going to happen, and he's your guy. And that 100 is very nice.
Yeah,
It's
probably
closer to
closer to
1,000.
500 or
It's
1,000.
it's up there. That being 100 is nice, though. That's the
Right.
way. That's a nice way to put it to the new guy that
To the
walks
new
in the
guy,
door.
yeah.
And after you get to know him a month, you go, "Hey, that 100 actually was incorrect. I was fucking with you."
It's
more
10,000.
It's
Yeah.
more like
It's like you're more, yeah.
yeah. It ain't you.
But it's a good aspect because somebody who's listening to this conversation right now,
Yeah.
you're putting in terms of what they don't know how many people come through the doors. Of
You don't know
Martial
what
Arts
you
Academy.
don't know.
Yeah, they don't know how many people
Yeah.
we have to deal with, or people that of all the emails, requests, and things of people who want to do this, like how many out of 100 actually make the leap to just come to one class,
Just to do a trial.
yeah, just to do one trial.
And that's why for
So
you
it's-
guys listening out there, when you call an establishment and they will not give you a price over the phone, understand it's a two-way relationship, because if you won't take the time to walk in the door and even introduce yourself face to face, why should that person on the phone give you the time of the day after that?
Bless up.
Bless up. It's like we're working together here. I'm going to give you something. I want you to come in and see this place. That's like when you call, hey, how much is that 488 Italia you guys got on the lot? $385,000. Are y'all fucking crazy? And then you drive a 488 Italia and you're like, that's a bad motherfucker. I thought it was 488.
So just a heads up for you guys that are worried about this stuff. Like if you guys like these two mentioned, you already overcame so many obstacles to just even get through the door. The worst thing that can happen from a competition is you lose $80 in a Saturday. Okay, you guys have spent $80 on stuff that was way more useless for you not to get the information and the feedback that you would get from a competition, pending you don't get injured.
Right.
But other than that, it's like just do it. That's why I like the guys at Bubby. I'm like, oh hell, I can do it, right? Oh, I'm just gonna do it. Those guys versus that student that's been training for 4 years and he still is just like holding himself back. Just let it go. Well, I know you're worried about what happens if you lose. What if you win?
Right.
What if you win?
That happens. That happens all the time.
You
People
know
go
how
in there,
much
they're
gold
timid.
you could have stacked by now if you would have just gone in and done it. What do you think about that? What were you saying?
No, I just agree. I mean, like I've been so shocked by a student. Like I've had that kind of play-by-play go in my head. It's like, yeah, coach, I signed up for a tournament, and I'm just like going through this mental image of them just getting destroyed, and then like, and then I'm like,
Jack Nicklaus.
and then
I'll be there.
6 weeks later they win a gold or a silver or medal, or they do great,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, man, hey, great, yeah. And then I'm like, maybe I am a good coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. There's some interesting takes on it, though. Like you said, though, that from from seeing who, like, I'm shocked as well at times of seeing people who, and I think it's honestly, I like seeing that with kids. Kids get out there who happen to win, and you see them get up and they're like, and I'm like, dude, check that out. Because for them, it's so much more at that age. It's so much more beneficial. What they're getting out, what they're getting out of the sport, and what our age gets out of the sport winning is two different things. What they get out of it is something that can lay them up for life on it. You know what I mean? It's set them forward like, dude, holy shit, I can. So I like to see that. It's that's why I'm beyond proud of like my middle child, is that I've watched. I'm not going to say this risk, but I have I have thrown that child into more dog fights.
Not literal dog fights for those watching.
I cleaned Michael Vick's car once though. I did do that. But anyway, outside of that,
Not like Khabib out here with a pit bull on a chain.
the bear fights and all.
Fighting your middle child.
I have not thrown
He also
her
has a pit bull.
into those dog fights, but I have thrown her into these upside down situations.
Yeah.
And as a parent, and as a coach, it helped me because I had to learn to cope with it as well. As like, fuck.
Kira, this is the 16-year-old greenbelt,
Well,
Joao.
Well, but she like I could see, and I have so much, and I tell you, like, and this is a cool thing we talk about, the most honest moments of a relationship that you'll ever have with. I say the most honest moments in a competitor in a combat sport. The most honest moments you're going to have with your own child, even your own athlete, are those moments that they're walking in, because it's a really weird feeling. I've looked at facial expressions on humans' faces who I was like, this motherfucker's a killer, and then I seen this face change, and I'm like, oh shit, this isn't good. you know, and you see them and they're looking at you and you realize how much faith they put back into you. And so it's a two-party swing. You as a coach, they admire you so much. They look back and like, and you're looking, you got them the nod. Yeah, you're good to go. And I see that with my daughter now, and it's so much different now with her because I'm like, hey, you got it. Like who cares? You're fine. Have fun. She's like, have fun. Fucking have fun. You know, look at this motherfucker. This little fucking kid over here had a rabies shot. You know, and I'm like, but like I've thrown her into some matches that they were
pit bulls and things.
That they were like. that they basically come up to me at a tournament and they say, hey, your daughter, like, we don't have anybody for her division, and she's at the tough age. She's 10.
Yeah.
She's a yellow belt now. Yeah. And they go,
there's gonna be kids going through puberty, boys already testosterone in their system, and kids that are just now like losing baby teeth all in the same.
And that's what I love about the journey in jiu-jitsu, because it does differ from wrestling, because in wrestling there are no, you're in a beginner division, there's that. It's like you're 14 and you're 85 pounds, like you got to die by this guy. He was last year's national champion, good luck to you. And now it's like but the journey, white, and then you get promoted, but boom, you go back down a little, and sometimes they continue to go up, but when they get to that level of the pubescent years, it gets interesting, because now you become the nail again, and it's a cool thing because you get kicked back down, put back in your place a little bit again, and you go like, these ain't no little shitheads. Like, these kids are good, man. They're tough. They're crafty. They're also getting stronger. So at the Perry tournament, I threw her in there. A kid was 12 years old, and Kira was 8. And I was like, that's all they got, like outside, in this one division. And I saw, man, it had me upset at myself a little bit, but I saw how she was scared, and I was like, it's okay. Look, just have fun and see how long. It's only got 3 minutes. I bet you, just do the whole 3 minutes and just have fun. I was like, you've trained with kids like this before, but just not that old. But
Devin
I was like, fuck.
Devin had to compete one time, and it was like the kid he was competing against was like, I think 1 belt level above him, but the weights were close to the same, but the kid was built like me. So he was like, let's say 135 or 140, but he was 6 feet tall, and he had a mustache. And I was like, oh shit, Devin. I was like, all right, Devin's going to get the takedown because he's shorter. Yeah. He's just going to get the double leg. And then I was like, hang on for the ride. And I was like, I gave him that look like, you're going to get him, Devin. But like, Devin didn't get him, right? But like, afterward, when this kid came over to me, like the moment where you shake the coach's hand, he crunched my index and my pinky finger together with his handshake.
Nice match,
bitch. And he was like, good match, coach. And I was like, oh my God, don't ever grab me again. And like, I couldn't even say anything to Devin, but like, I gave him like the shrug the shoulders, and the ear kind of like touches your shoulder, like,
How was it? Was it strong? Like, what, motherfucker? It's like a principal of my school.
Yeah, but so that is, I'm just agreeing with you. That is the toughest age group kind of thing. I was like,
dog, my heart goes out to short, fat kids. In general, because like we got one at our gym, dog. He's 200 pounds, and he's like 5'7".
Yeah. And
I'm like, and he's like, I wants to kickbox, and I was like, man, you gonna kickbox a grown 16-year-old?
It's like
a Zeke.
Yeah.
A Zeke.
Hey.
All I think about is Zeke. I heard a kid ask, why is the coach in a singlet? No, I heard this shit at a wrestling match, and I was like, Zeke's got this chest tattoo. Fucking,
and he's got a tattoo,
just
and a
like
full beard.
look like he literally just come out of a fucking Real Tree catalog, like shooting the damn elk. And I'm like, and they're like, why is that coach got on a singlet? He's one of our middle school kids, and I was like,
his nickname at our school? Dad. Be careful, Dad'll get you. So,
dude, I'm like,
bro. What I would tell people about Zeke, because Tristan brought Zeke in like a damn, kind of like a pet, like a mascot. It was like when you see like pictures of like people like a gorilla on a damn like leash. Tristan just comes bebopping in my school, be like, "This is my friend Zeke. He's in 7th grade."
Again.
And like, it's like okay, and so like I mean he's my height, and we were about the same weight when he was a freshman, I think, maybe a sophomore, and then his walking around weight is now probably a little bit heavier than
he
my
looks
walking around
215.
weight. I'm 212 this morning.
Yeah.
And Zeke is every bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah, he's going to wrestle 197 at Life, so it's like he's going to be a man on the mat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He already is. So he's.
But the thing about Zeke is
So you got Dad facing your little butterball.
That's the shit I think about.
What were you saying?
But the same thing with Zeke, and same thing with Austin and Tristan, and we got and I've had a few other students that I'll name, but they're they're minors, so I don't want to put their names out there, but if you tell them to go in the corner and tie your belt 500 times, they're gonna go over there and they'll tie it until the bell stops or until class is over, because that's what coach told them to do, and that's the mentality that they have. And as talented as they are, they always surrender their talent to their coach. And so they step on the mat and they do what the coach says. And then other students wonder why they're not getting better. Hey, man, surrender your talent to the coach when you step on the mat. Doesn't matter who the coach is. Just surrender your talent to him and do what he says. Or she. Right. Sorry.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And just go in there. And then at the end of the day, when you step off the mat, you're taking that information, that body work that you did, and you're gonna apply it to whatever game you have, because it's an individual sport. It's on you. I have some students that for some reason they love competing, but every time I see their face, whether they win or lose, it looks like they're about to cry, because there's some sort of an emotional thing that's happening to them, and they must love it. They must like that feeling because they keep wanting to do it. And so there's something there that I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to ask them, because then it might mess them up. Whatever the hell they got going on in their brain or their body at that moment that's creating the ability for them to step on the mat, put themselves on the line, win or lose, whatever they got going on, hey, it's working for them, because they're turning into good people.
Private lessons, last topic, and let's go through the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why to get a private lesson. I think that this is a great time to talk about it, because the when is so important. It kind of goes with right now. I think that we're pushing into we're in the third quarter already. Okay, so at the end of the year, it's very common for jiu-jitsu schools to have another belt testing or belt ceremony where they promote a good bit of students. And a lot of people are starting to come forward and ask me for private lessons. So I think that now is a good time for people to start getting private lessons over whatever you just mentioned, surrendering your talent to your coach. This is where you just ditch your ego and you ask your coach, what would you like to see from me moving forward in order for me to get promoted? Now, you're not saying I want to get promoted in December. You can promote me if I buy 10 private lessons from you. That's not what we're talking about. But if you're on that cusp and your instructors kind of let you know how many stripes you have on your belt, or you know that you're almost about to get blue based off of how much time you've been putting in, you can ask yourself, hey, what should I be working on? That might not even require a private lesson, okay? But you can take a look at your exam, or you can just ask the coach for feedback. So you could start getting some private lessons on that content. Now, as far as how much, I'll just go ahead and put it out there that myself, I'll do $150 if you got a card, or $100 cash if you give me a bill. So you guys, as being black belts, it's going to be close or it's the same.
Yeah. It's
close or it's the same. So a lot of people will come forward to me. Let's talk about kids and then move to the adults. As their kids will ask for a private lesson. Now, if you're a green belt whose name is Joel, you can get a private lesson from me. You know what I mean? But these younger kids, your kid could benefit from a private lesson, okay? But they don't need it. They need to come to class. I think you guys would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking like under 10 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and beginner level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not competing.
Yeah.
Just come to class.
Right.
You know?
And then, but if this kid was really, really into it, then you don't need a private lesson from me. Okay, we have other instructors, qualified instructors. If you are a pro fighter, you are a struggling pro fighter. So we have people that are capable of sending that level of knowledge to your kid that you could get a lower price point for because they're a purple belt or brown belt, and you could be having them teach your kid for less money if you think that the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that higher level coach. Your 4 to 6 year old, I won't do it. I don't care how much money you got. I'm not doing a private lesson with your 4 to 6 year old. I'm not doing one with your 7 to 9 year old.
Dog, I got a private lesson with both of those today.
Wow.
I got a private lesson with a 5 and an 8 year old.
Wow.
They're brother sister now.
Okay. All right.
And but he's my little maniac. He's my guard playing
Right. Yeah.
wild. He's from Tanner Rice's school in
They're
California.
getting a 2 for 1. I'm
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
she wants some in on it too. Kira normally jumps in with him as to give the younger one a break. But so what happened, and this is what we use the private lesson for. So like I'm the same way when people come up, they go like, I have a parent come in, and I told you this, like he was talking to me at the desk and he was like, I really want to get a private for my kid, and he was like, he just needs some help, and he looked back and he's like her right here. And it was my daughter walking by. He's like, that girl right there. Every time he goes to her, dude, she crushes him. She's crushing people in here. Like, we want him to do that. And I go, well, she just come to classes. I was like, that's my daughter. Like, she just comes to classes. That's all. I said, at home, we might play some here and there, but I'm not like, hey, it's 3:30.
Yeah. Time to bust out,
Gee up
500
before I knock
Hindus
your head
and
off
like.
kind of thing. It's not that. I said, I'll let her, and she's the best one out of my 3. I'll let her just have fun with it. Classes provide all those things. So I told him, I said, and the portion that you're asking about, and I had to kind of really dive into his head, like, what do you want for him out of it, like a private lesson? And he was just like, well, it seems like he struggles with takedowns and all. And I was like, dude, I got 30-year-olds that struggle with takedowns. I got pro fighters that struggle with takedowns. Like, that's a hard element. That's a tough thing. You gonna live, dog? But anyway, so I said, so what I'll use the private lesson for is, and what I break down to how to tell him, I was like, your kid has an issue paying attention in class. He cuts up in class. I want to use the private lesson to figure out which coaching style connects with him, what type of learner he is, and maybe we figure out which coach is going to be best at dressing him from here forward. And the dad was like, I like that. And I did. I used that private lesson to try to connect with the kid more, and we finally cracked the code. We did. We cracked the code on what the kid needed, and I had the perfect coach for him. Like, it wasn't that I couldn't coach him. It's not that. It's that in the heat of the moment when I'm coaching and I look around and this kid has got his fucking tongue in another kid's ear or some shit, I'm like, hey,
Right, yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? We figured out he didn't need that attention, because for him, he shut down really bad, and then he felt really bad, and then all of a sudden he got really embarrassed, and then he'd cry. He's like, I don't want it. He wanted to be a kid that blended in, and when it comes to
Be the
find
gray
out
man.
that when I would address him, if there was something, so I learned to address him privately, and he's not a bad kid at all. He's actually a really good kid. He just doesn't. He just kind of is in no man's land sometimes.
Yeah.
So I learned to address him for 1 minute after each time I give instruction, or I try to connect with him some but not call his name, and it corrected things. So that's the only thing when I have young kids, I go like, I'm only going to use this to try to help you with your journey. I said, but it's mainly you. I can help you as a parent support him, because that's what he needs right now. He needs you. He doesn't need a private lesson from a coach. He just needs to come to class. He needs you to ask him the right questions when he leaves every day. Ask him. Don't say, how was class? He don't fucking know. The motherfucker had his finger up in his brain. He's like, just say, hey, what was your favorite thing you did the whole day today? And I said, you'd be amazed what he'd tell you. I was like, just support him, and that's it. But then I got the old motherfuckers that come in. I got these little meow motherfuckers that are coming in, and I'm like, what the fuck you want me to do with him? Like, this kid, I need to ask him some questions, because I ain't never seen a motherfucker being like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the private lesson, a guy like that, you can work to help him, one, prepare for a competition, right? That's one reason we might do a private lesson. Again, you're going to get with the black belt probably not entering a white belt division. Probably not always. Another reason is to supplement your training, just in general, year round. You could, if you're a guy that makes it to 2 classes per week, you actually do your membership and your tuition, and you're going at least 2 times a week. Once a month, you might get a private lesson to supplement that. To, hey, coach, I'm over here. I'm having some failure with this. I'm having some successes with this. Can we get a private? Yes, that's the guy you get. You don't do private lessons instead of classes.
That's right.
That's something I think that's important to talk about,
Right.
because I think people come in and they have a misconception of this. They think that if you want gains in the fitness world, what do you get? Personal training, right? If you have a personal trainer, then they are working one-on-one for you, and your goals and your gains will be met a lot quicker than if you just made the workout yourself, or you just printed one out off of the internet. Not always, but that's pretty much how it goes. It is not like that with jiu-jitsu. If you are in finance and you have plenty of money, and you come forward to any of us here at this table and you say, hey, I want to do only private lessons. Because of my schedule, you can't do a regular class. I'm happy to take the money. I am, and I will do my best to help you. You are going to get better slower than that guy who comes to group classes twice a week.
Right.
You know?
No, I agree 100%. The main thing that I like to, when I hear people come up talking to me about private lessons, it's almost always they have an idea of how they can fix their game. It's like, oh, you do. And they tell me that they're good. I'm really good at this, but I'm having some trouble with this. It's like, oh, you are really good at that? Are you sure? Are you sure you're really good at that too? You know, like
I'm more of a boxer, so if nobody, if people want to fight me, I probably need to learn my ground game, because I'll box somebody's fucking ears off.
Yeah,
That's the bar talk.
it's like, and so for me, like if I'm doing, let's say I do, because I normally do a 90-minute private lesson.
I do 60 to 90.
Okay.
It's however long it takes for you to get the content.
Right, and that's the 60 minutes. I usually try to get the content. We'll go over because I tend to talk. I tend to try to get people to understand through concepts, or I might just go off on a tangent about something. But the
concept part, that's important to note, because those take longer time to relay to people.
Right. You have to come up with analogies for someone to grasp, or other moves that might be related to this that you know that they understand. So
Your videos are very deep and detailed.
Oh. Well,
Yeah. You're very detailed in your teaching.
Well, I felt like my coaches were.
Right.
I felt like I felt like everything that, like, whenever I was the one thing that I always felt like leaving the classes that I took with either Bob or Eric, it was like, it wasn't a lack of information at all.
Right.
Sometimes it was overload. So
Yeah.
what I try to do is I try to do a lot of information about 1 or 2 things, not 5 different
That's
things.
Right.
So from that aspect, I do get a little long-winded in my teaching. The last few minutes, I want to roll with the student. I want them to get it. I don't want them to leave and just feel like they just did a few moves and everything. I do want those last 15 minutes, maybe 20 or whatever, or if it's somebody I know really well, we might roll for the last 30 minutes and just put a timer on, put maybe 2 breaks in that 30-minute period, like, just to get our gis adjusted and get a swig of water and go right back into it. And then they're getting, like, a twofold thing. They're getting one-on-one individual instruction on things that I feel they need to work on, not things that they feel they need to work on. Secondly, the actual endorphins at the end of it, because rolling, we all know why we do jiu-jitsu. It's at the end of it, we get a lot of endorphins from the actual physical act of doing it at the end. We get to practice and then do it at the end.
Yeah.
Instead of like when I was in Taekwondo or something like that, it was practice for 6 weeks, and then you pad it up with a mattress strapped to your chest, and these big ass pads on your arms and shins, and then you get to do it. But hey, man, don't kick them in the head. But hey, I can get my foot way up over his head because we've been doing 6 weeks of stretching. And it's like, it's like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. So in jiu-jitsu, we get to do that. So I always like to give that at the end, unless they're just a student who's looking for a little bit of self-defense, looking for a little bit of more in-depth knowledge on things that I already know they understand.
I taught when I was getting ready to buy my house. I taught a shitload of private lessons, and
An unreal amount of private lessons.
I was teaching 10 to 14 hours of private lessons in one day.
He was doing
awesome.
4 in the morning.
Yeah,
and going
I was
all
4 in the
day.
morning, literally. Motherfucker stands you up at 4 in the morning, dude. You be ready to send a damn mail bomb as a joke their way. You'd be pissed off, but yeah, shit like that. And I made actually good money, like doing just privates, but I paid the ultimate price of like my body, and I started realizing that when I was unavailable, because maybe I was just fucking hurting, that they didn't give a fuck. They were like, well, can't you just hold pads for an hour? I'm like, what the fuck, And I started valuing my lessons. I was doing mainly kickboxing. That was why.
And because you were probably thinking like the value of a kickboxing lesson is less than a jiu-jitsu, so you're charging a little bit less.
Charging less, and then the person that I was attracting was your everydayer. Okay, and I think if you get somebody come up to you by number that says, "Hey man, I want to do a kickboxing private," versus, "Hey, I want to do a jiu-jitsu private," there's the kickboxing private's like, "I want you to hold pads for me, and I want to be able to hit something, and you don't hit me back though, make sure of that." And you know what I'm saying? And jiu-jitsu, it's like,
I want you to rub my face into the mat.
Yeah,
and
like,
tell me
hey,
everything
tell me
doing
I'm a
wrong.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
It was a different human I was getting out there, and what I started realizing was I was like, man, all this work that I'm doing with this person, they're never gonna fucking use it. They're never gonna compete. They're using it just to get in shape. I was using the best moments and hours and best, condition that I was in to teach people that just didn't care about what I was trying to really teach them, like detail and concept and understanding drilling. And it's a lot more taxing on your body as the Oki would, he's a fucking pad holder, as your
Especially when you're
partner.
doing it all day like you were.
Yeah,
the
doing it.
elbows
It's
and the wrists.
fucking was hurting so bad. And anyway, I was just like, holy shit. I remember going to a fight once, and Ross Kellen, the owner of Copa America, was like, dude, all I see on your timeline, how many private lessons you teach a day? And I was telling him, I was like, dude, up to 10 to 12. He goes, when I was your age, I actually was teaching like that too. And he told me then, he said, you're going to get tired of it. And I was like, nah. I was like, I'm trying to buy a house and all. I'm trying to save up money. He's like, you're going to get tired of it. And he wasn't bullshitting. I got really fucking tired of it. And when I did, the people were like, well, what am I supposed to do? Come to class, man. We hit pads in class. You train with other people.
That
What the
membership's too
fuck?
much. That membership's too much,
You're
Bubby.
paying me privately, and then you won't come to class. Like, what in the hell, man? They're like, yeah, the time frame. And it was just really weird. I found myself basically bending over backwards. And then I really liked teaching jiu-jitsu privates because I had people who were legitimate. They were intelligent. They were thinkers. They were like, hey, I want to get better at this. And then maybe it wasn't for the reasoning. They maybe still been just enthusiast training, but they legitimately want to master the craft. They wanted to get better. They wanted something, some material to think about. The people I had kickboxing, they'd come in, try to knock my shit off, and then they'd pack their bags and they'd go back to work. Yeah. They didn't care. They didn't internalize it. They didn't, you know what I mean? They didn't digest what I was giving them.
You can't go into it like a deep dive, like omnibus, like intellectual, conceptual conversation and breakdown of moves and true martial arts like you can with a jiu-jitsu student.
Right.
And if somebody's just showing up, like say, just trying to basically just you hold pads and then them hurt you.
Yeah.
Then
the difference that I have, I looked at like the progression rate of what I was building in jiu-jitsu versus, and I look at the progression rate differently. I built this combination for this athlete, and then they, of course, by the end of the time, they were hitting it the next time, and they gradually got more fluid and relaxed. In sparring, that shit, that as well as I do, that shit ain't applicable. Like you're looking good on pads, but wait till someone starts firing back and emotion comes in. the jiu-jitsu lessons to me were more beneficial, not only for me but for them, because they were, it's a customary in jiu-jitsu to be live every day more. It's less taxing on the body. You can spend more time doing live training. Well, the most what I started doing with all of my jiu-jitsu privates at that time that I found the highest success rate in, and I watched the progression rate in, was trying to instill drilling etiquette into them. I gave out drill sheets that basically had 4 techniques on it, and allowed, it had 2,500 reps on each technique. And Grappler's Guide actually has these. Jason Scully had a really good drilling system that was really good, as far as like that was something that he pressed. That was where he made his real big push at it, was drilling.
They do that in the wrestling community. They have drill sheets.
Big time.
That's
I mean,
common.
That's where I started pushing. Same thing. I don't teach a seminar during a private. We try to break down 1 to 2 things, dive into them real hard, find the common denominators of how they currently train and build upon it, and plug it into them. And I try to tell them, like, my goal is not to do a private lesson with you every day. It's not to do a private lesson with you every week. It's to do a fine tuning, and it's to build and develop on something, or it's to expand a knowledge base upon something. I haven't had anybody come to me, though, in all my years of saying, like, hey, the belt promotion's coming up. Can I get a private lesson? I haven't had that.
I just bring that up because we do testing.
Yeah, you do testing.
And so, like, there will be. See, I was like what John was talking about, like where he would like a student to come to him and him be able to give his personal input on what that person needs to work on. I like that with like my white belts and newer green belts.
Yeah.
Once you have a little bit, if you're almost at the blue belt, I'd like you to come to me and tell me what you want, and especially purple and up, like, purple, browns, and black belts, when they come for a private, like, I want you to tell me what you want to know. And that way I can, like, give you my input on it. But I'd like to know before that day, that way I like to structure a very well-organized, planned, very professional lesson to where I feel that I can relay that to you, and you not only feel you got your money's worth, but you got something that we were just talking about, like, with the lessons that you can take this to supplement your training, and now you can put that to practice.
Yeah.
You can fine tune it, like you mentioned, and then any problems that you ran into, now we don't need a lesson for that. You can just tell me with feedback, hey, they kept doing this, and I can answer that on an open mat or right after class.
Right.
But I can give you a game or
What?
Exactly. So, but yeah, I don't like to do a complete seminar and a lesson with all this stuff, but I do like to get into some details and show some things. I like the student to tell me what they want to know or where they're confused, because if they tell me that ahead of time, a lesson may not be needed.
Yeah.
Hey, meet me at the Saturday open mat, 11 to 1. I've got 15 minutes for you. I'm going to be there already. I'm happy to do that for you. See, it could be something like that where they were willing to throw their money at me. I don't want the money for something like that. I can just show that to you, But if you tell me that you need, yeah, you're right. You do need that. I have a student, all love the Brandon Veal out there. He with his schedule, he's a mostly morning class guy. He's only made a couple evening classes. Well, in our Tuesday, Thursday, that's a fundamentals class. He's a green belt, getting pretty solid. He timeline wise, he could be a blue belt, but we just don't have the advanced classes in the mornings yet. That's coming. But he's 6'4" or 5. He needs spider guard and lasso guard. He needs that.
Yeah.
We don't do that in the fundamental classes. It's just not what's in there. So that would be he brought that forth to me, like, hey, I want to work on this. We already did one lesson on just the basics of it. Now he's ready, because he's had some trial and error with that. He's ready for us to go into the transitions that occur when people start to put up defenses anyway. Perfect. That's why I like somebody to tell me what they would like. Now I might disagree and say, no, we need to go over here, but I like it when they tell me what they want to learn.
Dude, I had you might remember this, but it was back 2010, 11 area. It was at our second location. I got a phone call. I was at a friend's house, and they said, hey, my name is Vody, and I'm from Texas. I'm here, travel here for work. And I'm a jiu-jitsu enthusiast. I've been training about 6 months. Big, deep voice. And he was like, I everywhere I travel, I like to take a private lesson from a coach. And I was like, awesome. We're talking to each other, kind of having a fill-out process. He's like, man, sounds like, you're right up my alley. This is what I'm looking for. Can you meet tomorrow? Sure. I met him on a Sunday. We both arrived right around the same time. When I got out of the car and he got out, he was like 6'6", like 380-pound guy. I was like, holy, and he looked at me and he was just like, what the fuck is this little guy? And I was like looking at him and I was like, are you voting? He said, yes, yeah, I am. Are you boss? Like, yeah, I am. And I go up and I was like, how you doing? I got to know his life story. He is like,
he crushed your hand like that 14-year-old did to me at that grappling tournament.
Was huge. Dude, I have never seen a man like that. And I was like, and his gi looked like a legit queen-size mattress, dude. It was, and his big-ass long white belt on. I was like, holy shit, the most humble and kind guy ever. And it was, at the time, I thought was going to be a catastrophe of a private lesson. I was like, we can't hang out. You know, we can hang out, but dude, it was like Smokey and that chick on damn Friday. I was like, we can hang out, but we can't. But it turned out that he was like, so he was doing this. He's like, you know, I can't close my guard. I can't do a lot of things. He's from Team Took.
Yeah.
And I was like,
by the way, Travis Took is one of the best just American diamond in the rough black belts that's out there. When I was a purple belt, I was a pretty good purple belt. And this roommate that I had at the time saw him. He was Eve Edwards' coach, so he had come in and he rolled with me. And my roommate at the time watched and he said, "Damn, Cole." He said, "I don't see white people fuck you up like that." Meaning like the only people are Brazilians that trash me on the mat like that. And I was like, dude, he was special. You know, I know I was just a purple belt, and like there is a gap between purple and black, but I was a pretty good purple belt, and he mauled me up like the same kind of way that like a Mark Bocek mowed me up, just like treated me like I was trash. You know, so this guy trains with a good coach is all I'm saying.
He's really good. He was here like. He gave speeches and he is a foster parent and all this stuff. He's a really kind guy, super humble, but he was like, yeah, I can't do this. And I was like, yeah, I can't really do that either. And then we come to find out that just because we were such polar opposite in size that a lot of our game was very similar. It was open guard, build your base up, and it was like, and it was really neat. And he's like, man, he goes, I'll be honest with you, because of the size gap, I didn't think we were going to be able to bridge it. And he goes, I learned a ton today just on things that we both can't do. And on he shot me a message. He wound up winning the white belt pans, probably hands down, decisively mowed everybody down. But he played football for Rice. I mean, he was just a big boy, man. He was an older guy, literally the most humble and gentle giant. But bro, you talk about just being on the phone. I was like, he sounds like an adult. You know what I mean? Like a grown ass adult. And then when I saw him, you see this car like shift when he got out. And I was like, holy shit, that's a big fucking guy, and him. And then I got to do a private lesson with Brian Deegan, the founder of like Metal Militia, and I thought that was cool. He came to town. I was involved in motocross with coaching at Matt Walker School of Motocross, and his kid came out, and he was a cool guy. He's had like the celebrity boxing matches, was kind of a jiu-jitsu fanatic, but like big MMA fan. And he sponsored the Diaz brothers, and I thought that was really cool, though, man. Cool. But that's some pretty neat people along the way. But fucking A, I've had some nightmares along the way too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off camera or off. if I explain something, but yeah, most private lessons for the most part go pretty well. I will allow like 5 students to split it, and I'll be the 6th if we if we're all in a thing. But I pick the lesson. Then and then I've got some guys that live out of town that all train together, and they all train with me, being their coach and stuff like that. So if I have to get with them, then I'll usually have my own thing to go over, unless their leader is like, it's like, yeah, well, this is when I'm having a trouble getting them to understand. And so I'm like, okay, we'll work on that then.
Where's your pen?
I don't know. But we covered a good yeah, go ahead.
Nah, Hey, go ahead.
Okay, so like the who, what, where, when, and why. So the first is like the who and the why are the real first question. Like one is who is it for? Again, if it's for your child, that'll dictate who you get the lesson from. So again, like I have a purple belt that could help with that. The why, are you getting ready for a competition? Are you getting ready for a test? Are you just trying to supplement, your training? That could also dictate who you get it from. Another thing is the what. Maybe before you schedule the lesson, even if you had something in mind from that you wanted to go over, ask your instructor. Say, I wanted to go over this. Is there something else that you perhaps had in mind? I think that would be a great way to start the conversation with your coach, because maybe he doesn't want to do the lesson on what you need, and he would be willing to pass that lesson off to that junior brown belt or purple belt or something like that. Or he might cut you off and say, you know what, I like the hybrid spider reverse De La Riva guard too, but your 2 stripes on your white belt, I don't think you're ready. But I'm happy to do a private lesson with you, and I just happen to specialize in side mount escapes, and I think that that could go a long way for you. So that covers the what. The when. Don't be asking Professor Bubby to be doing no lessons at 4 a.m. He's over with that bullshit.
Talk to my 5-stripe purple belt, Lindsey Jones.
Yeah.
He'll be glad to meet you. He's doing a ton of private lessons right now.
I owe the IRS, so you can hit me up.
Yeah, so we got the who, we got the what, the where. Don't be asking us to come to you. You're coming to the gym to get this thing on.
Right.
If it happens to be, again, the when, if it's a time that is not super convenient with the hours, most of the instructors have a key at wherever you're trying to get your lesson from. Maybe the coach has a setup at their garage or home. Maybe that's more convenient for them. So when it comes to where, try to do what's most convenient for the instructor. That's usually the way to go. They have something that they're sharing with you. They're not better people than you, but most of the time it goes like this. When someone has a product or a service that you want, you go to them. You don't tell the grocery store to bring the shit to you. If you do, you pay an extra charge for that. So just take these things into consideration. Be nice to your coaches. Come to them with some level of humility, I think is important. And be willing for them to cut you off, surrendering your technique to your instructor, as Professor John pointed out before, and just be willing to take some advice, because they have already been on that journey and that track that you're on. And that's what being able to get wisdom from. Wisdom is something that comes from someone else's experiences that they have already had. So they've already been there. They probably know where you're headed and what issues you're running into and where you should be going instead with that type of stuff. So know the who, what, where, when, and why on getting private lessons. Anything else we can talk about?
No, that's pretty much it. That's kind of what I look for now in the private industry. When I'm talking to people about it, I want to know some long-term goals. I want to know some short-term goals. Like, what are you after? Let's try to devise a plan to get there, so you don't have to come do the fucking lessons with me every week. I don't want that. That's something else too. Is I think I know John and I know Cole both deliver when they teach. And understanding the value. That's another thing. Understanding the value of the private lesson. And for the beginning crowd, they don't understand that. They don't understand fuck.
They see the price. They don't see the
price.
value.
Yeah. I told you,
Not the
dogs,
same.
that 488, that Italia, that's a bad bitch. You just got to drive it one fucking time. You have panties thrown at you. So it's yeah.
They don't see the overhead.
Oh,
They don't
yeah.
they don't see the cost of everything behind you to get to more so y'all two than me. My academy was always my academy was a necessity. Well, your academy was too at the beginning too. Mm-hmm. Your academy was a necessity. You had to keep training, so
Right.
But you sacrifice so much to start an academy.
Right.
Security, financial security, you know, I mean, all kinds of different things to take that plunge to open this service industry, which is what it is, this educational service industry that you've opened. You've done the same thing. All right. So on the side of that, like, they don't see like the value at the end when they see that price tag. That price tag's there because there's a cost to everyone's time as business owners.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a cost to the training that we've put in the past.
Yeah, I mean, some people, they pay money. Like, I paid American Top Team 6 figures. You know, like, I didn't get an education for free, nor should I have. For all you people out there who want free education, it don't exist. Like, you shouldn't get something for free. That's not like what it is. Another thing is what you put into. Of course, there's sweat equity, man. Like, that goes a long way. And some people put the sweat equity and they paid for it. And let's talk about, like, Bubby mentioned the body. What about the injuries? I'm trying to teach you this stuff so you don't have to go the roundabout way that I did, having this surgery that took me out for 7 months because I did this move wrong, or I didn't know how to tap, or I didn't know the way that the heel hook worked. Instead of just teaching the move, I'm teaching the concept and how it works and what happens on a physiological level. So you have an understanding of how this move doesn't sneak up on you. It's there and then snap or whatever. I'm able to give you that knowledge through wisdom. And you don't have to take those same mistakes. So you're right. There is a lot of stuff. It goes into not just the financial thing of, like, setting up your academy or your gym and what you put in to get to the education that got there, and the physical demands that required, and the personal amount of time that it just took. You're right. That's why. Shit, the more I'm talking, I'm underselling my programs. I'm about to go restructure the price sheet. What's up? Let's have a meeting of the minds, Bubby.
That's what I catch most of. That is the price, and it's and some people are salesmen. Some people are going to sell it. They are. Some people aren't even gonna. They're just gonna. You know, you get asked 125, and they don't. You know, they don't even ask, like, what comes with that? What can, you know what I mean? Because there should be some questions in front of it. Hey, do you do privates is what I hear. You know, like, yes, I do. And then they jump to the second question. Well, how much is it for a private? Like, how does it work? And then I cut it off. I go, what do you want to do? What are you looking for? Is there something and like you said, I can just answer it right now. You don't have to come pay me the money. And I tell them my philosophy on it. Like, my goal is not to have to do private lessons with you and pat you on the butt once a week. If you want to give me that money and you want that reassurance in your head and you want to have detailed work, that's you. But there's a thing that's too much information. You haven't had time to implement what we've worked, you know. And
information on what it is that we do here. How about, instead of asking the price, like, a part of this is, like, being in middle Georgia, the education is not there on exactly what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is yet. It has come a long way. You know, you got Joe Rogan out there and Jocko out there, and you know, the UFC is happening more and more. But we still have people that want to bring their kids to karate classes. You know, first off, I'm happy to pass somebody to a Taekwondo school. Most people don't know. Most schools that have karate signs, they don't even teach karate. But I'm happy to turn the business away if that's what you want. But I think that a lot of times people don't know what they want. So that's why I can't just tell you the price when you don't even know what you're getting. You know, you don't go to Advanced Auto Parts and say, what's the price on those car parts? You know, like, that's basically when you guys say,
what's you holding?
What?
parts.
Yeah, like, what part? What freaking part are you talking about? Like, we have.
I don't know what y'all got.
Yeah, yeah.
We got shitty distributors. You know what I'm saying? We got a fucking alternator you'll return. Probably got a battery you gonna fucking kill anyway. What you looking for?
You want a whole engine block? We also got a car here. Like, we have different things, and maybe you should come to, before asking just what's the price, maybe you should get a little bit of an education on what the business is, who's running the business, what it is that you're doing, and just ask. Like, we have friendly staff. or sometimes we will personally answer these questions on what it is that we do here and what we can provide for your son. If your goals for you or your child can't be met by us, we are not going to try to sign you up. We will turn you away, and we'll
It's more, dude. It's more stressful to keep them.
Yeah.
We know that. Hey, you know what I like? You can make me this video, right? I can't remember what.
Hey, but you better pay him for his value.
That's right.
We got to talk about the value first because he's got to find out what I want.
Maybe you should ask some questions.
So I can't remember what airline I was on, but they had actually a funny video on the airline. They had hired some actual like known actors, and it was like they did the right and the wrong, and it's like always comedic.
I told you I wanted to do that for a gym.
we've
the
talked about this.
steps on the mat with the shoes, and then.
But I want to make him
the
step on the
guy
mat with a cigarette and shoes.
Yeah.
And then throw a cigarette out. And like, oh, it was the shoes, not the cigarette. Takes the shit out. And it's something comedic. But I thought I really would love to have that as like on my website as like just a reel that plays. It's like comedic but educational.
Yeah.
It's like a stab at the general that we see.
The end result was always a rear naked choke to sleep for all of the violations of etiquette. That was like my idea for the funny thing. And then another one you could do is like have like a before where the guy like does something bad, then see his face with a professional makeup artist having blacked their eye and just jacked them up. They got the blacked out teeth.
He just steps on there and just blows up.
What was that? What was that thing? Remember we made the talking was called Extra Original or something.com. What was that? You can make the cartoons talk.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And they wound up selling it. They sold that company. You go to the website now.
Whatever it was.
Huh?
Jib jab.
Well, now I guess that's what it is now, but you could this was a really good software. I made plenty of storylines.
We made hilarious videos.
We made really good videos about personal experiences, and they
I remember those.
and they wind up. It's like Extraordinary, or Extra Original, or I can't. It was
I ain't
something.
seen them in years.
But yeah, they did away. When I go to the website now, they sold it. But I was like, I've always wanted I've always wanted like a video like that, a right and a wrong, what to expect or whatever, gym etiquette, like, but made in a fun way. Yeah, so
I always wanted
Video
to do
production
it.
is what I do. So yeah, I can make you that.
I just want,
We know you
I
got
want,
the videos.
like Cole talks about everything ending in a rear naked choke. I want it all to end in like me hitting somebody in a kneecap with a fucking, like
Somebody
a
just
pipe
getting
wrench.
shot in the leg.
Yeah, just me just clipping them.
I know in the video I've got a bald head, but like when I grow my hair out, it's better than Bob Ross's. And I always wanted to do a 5-part jiu-jitsu introduction move, but
Jiu-jitsu Bob Ross.
jiu-jitsu Bob Ross, and with my hair completely out. I grow my hair for 6 months out just to do it, and then have like the gold
game.
medallion up under my
Yeah.
it's like I don't know if I can get my voice to talk like his though, but
What is Bob Ross's voice like?
It's really
Like-
whispery
like-
and soft.
it's just like
It's
really,
like his art.
yeah, it's just really like
Happy
like-
little trees.
Yeah, it's happy little trees. Like I couldn't do that. I don't think.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
But you can say, all right, all right,
All
all
right,
right.
I could talk like the Macho Man Randy
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah, there you
Like, and do something like that. But I don't know.
All right, so we got
Matthew McConaughey teaches
jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu is essential. Green belts are essential. Notify, but please don't ask for permission. We don't do hero worship here, so you don't need to come at us like we're the all-seeing eye. And then private lessons, they're good for you, but know when, why you want them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody out there, you want to hear us talk about some other topics related inside our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or martial arts world? We're happy to do it. So you can comment below, or you can find us on our social and hit us up. Peace.